Hey all, welcome to this section of the course, which is the installing Jupyter Notebooks. So in the previous section, we installed Python on our computer and we verified that, hey, we have Python installed using the command prompt. Now, in order to use Python, you have a lot of tools out there. So one of those tools is Jupyter Notebooks, and which is where we'll start coding. So a brief agenda of this in this section, we're going to go over what is Jupyter Notebooks, how to install it, how to open them up, and then a brief overview of how to use them. So let's start with what is Jupyter Notebooks. Jupyter Notebooks is a web application where you can write and develop Python code amongst other things. So it's a really user-friendly way to write and develop Python code. There's a lot of tools out there that you can use to write and develop Python code, such as PyCharm, Microsoft Visual Studio, and a few others. I found that Jupyter Notebooks is the most user-friendly for someone who is just getting into coding. So how do you install Jupyter Notebooks? So to install Jupyter Notebooks, simply type in pip install notebook in your command prompt. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that as I type this. So I'm going to go over to my to the start menu, and I'm going to go to my command prompt. Here's my command prompt, and I'm going to type in pip install notebook. Now, what this does, what pip is a way for you to install external Python libraries. So code that someone else has written, you can use pip to kind of extract it and bring it onto your computer so you can use it. So we went over how we install pip, how we install Jupyter Notebooks. Simple pip install notebook. Now we're going to go over to how to open up Jupyter Notebooks. So once we have pip installed, we're simply going to type in Jupyter Notebook. And what this will do is it will create a browser-like window on your computer, on your Google Chrome. So if you notice, this is essentially your computer's directories. So you have your desktop, your documents, your downloads, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and give a brief overview of using Jupyter Notebooks. So I'm going to go ahead and go into desktop. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to and the way I do that is I go over to new and click on Python 3 because this is a Python file that I'm creating. And I can name this file whatever I want it to be. So I will call it Jupyter Notebooks Overview. So Jupyter Notebooks has these things called cells where you can basically type in some code and then run that cell. So let's say I wanted to type in the last example we did hello world, right? We printed hello world. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to say print hello world. And so I typed it in my cell. And if I want to run this, I simply go ahead and hit the run button. And it prints hello world. Now, I could also do something like 8 plus 2. And instead of hitting run, I can just type in shift enter, and that will also run that piece of code. So let's say I wanted to add additional cells. I can just simply go ahead and hit this add button. If I want to cut some cells, I can simply cut that cell. So that's kind of like a brief overview of Jupyter Notebooks. And once I'm done with this file, I can simply say, save and checkpoint, and it will save this file in my desktop folder as a Python notebook file. And that's pretty much it for Jupyter Notebooks. So just to go over what we covered in this section, we went over, what is Jupyter Notebooks. We installed Jupyter Notebooks, then then we opened up Jupyter Notebooks, and then I gave a brief overview of how you can type in or type code in Jupyter Notebooks. I've included additional resource of more deep dive into Jupyter Notebooks. I would advise that you go through that and just get a bit more familiar with Jupyter Notebooks. So thank you for coming to this section, and I'll see you guys at the next section. Thank you.